I'm jealous. Everybody's got like something to vape or smoke on, and I ain't got nothing. I've
I
got
think
tea.
Ties is just nicotine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is just like you get at the convenience store.
Yeah, I don't like those. I need to go to the smoke shop and get like the refillable tank or something. Anyway,
You smoke?
I mean, not in a long time, but I do like to vape.
Yeah.
And then like it does.
Mine's a dry. This is the dry herb vape.
Yeah.
You said dry herb?
Yeah, but I like just put crumbled up weed into a little compartment in here.
Yeah.
And it heats it up.
Oh, so it's okay. So it's not a cart. It's not a liquid cart. You put the bud in there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why it's so big.
Holy smokes. Wow.
I mean, it's not big for a vape. This is the little sister to the Volcano, which is the same brand. This is the smallest one. This is the handheld one. I do have a smaller dry herb vape, but
yeah. Oh, that's neat.
Interesting.
Wow.
Shall we?
Yeah. All right. Get lit, Carol.
Let's go.
Would anyone like to do a podcast?
Sure. Sign me up. I like how you licked the tip of that thing before you stuck it in your mouth.
She licks the tip
as
before
the song goes.
she puts it in her mouth.
You know what? I forgot.
Are
like
we going off the rails
we're
again
on
right
video
now?
and like
Yeah.
So if I leave that in, people will know what I'm talking about. That makes it a little less funny.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, this is D Knight.
This is Carol. This is Ty.
And you're listening to the Pardon the Insurrection podcast, where, you know, fuck the insurrectionists. They go on to hell and they go on to jail. And we've got the chief insurrectionist on trial as we speak, though sadly not for the insurrection itself. Guess we'll have to hold off on that until the Supreme Court decides whether or not presidents have, immunity for trying to overthrow the government and have their political opponents assassinated. But anyway, it is week 4 of this criminal trial that Trump is facing in New York, thanks to these falsification of business records in an attempt to pay off a porn star to cover up an affair right before the 2016 election, commonly referred to as the hush money trial. I feel like it's at least a number of people have gotten around to calling it something slightly more accurate, an election interference trial.
Yes, and Tristan Snell is always pointing that out. And that is a great point, because when you say hush money, to me, it lessens the gravity of these charges and what the case is actually really about. Because at the end of the day, Stormy Daniels' testimony, it was the bookkeeper, the accountant, who for 40 years, worked for the Trump organization, which has set a clear pattern of their duplicity and just how detailed the fraud was. And I think as soon as people say hush money, and they're like, oh, what's the big deal? That's the first thing. And then they just tune out and they dismiss it without really listening or paying attention. So
hush money pursuant to election interference.
Yeah, hush money definitely does lessen the sting of what it actually was. And I've said this before.
The incriminating part out loud.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, you froze up. What happened?
I did. I said, why do you have to say the incriminating part out loud? That just makes us sound bad.
Fair enough. Wait, do you have headphones by any chance? Yeah.
Yes.
David bought me these for Mother's Day.
Oh, well, that's sweet of him. But yeah, this will keep us from, it'll keep the audio from cutting out if we happen to talk over each other. But yeah, so just kind of not, calling it hush money just kind of typically lessens the regard of what this is actually about. And I've said this before. It's if you think about it, if Trump hadn't committed this crime of having Stormy Daniels paid off and having the payments covered up, just given the circumstances in 2016, I know a lot's changed since then. After years of being pot committed, the MAGAs, they've just decided to stick with him. But it was fraught. Close to the election, they were really thinking about pulling Trump off the ticket and everything. And so if this had come out, this would probably been the straw that cost Trump the election. Just given that the small margin which he won by, again, he lost by 3 million votes, but he won a couple of swing states by a handful of thousands that gave him the electoral college victory. And this story would have probably flipped those swing states. But we had Stormy Daniels testify last week, and I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast by now, you've already you probably disgusted hearing about Stormy Daniels' testimony, so we probably won't go super in depth there. But just a couple of noteworthy things about how Stormy ended up testifying about the lurid details of their encounter, or her encounter with Trump. Is basically because Trump's defense counsel took the position that Stormy Daniels was a liar and the encounter never actually happened. So that kind of opened the door for the prosecution to go into some realms
Yes,
that
that was a
normally
nice
would have been.
invitation to prove that it did happen. Huh?
Yeah, that was a mistake.
The trial wasn't about the trial. That wasn't, part of the fact finding. That wasn't part. It wasn't relevant necessarily.
No, they could have stipulated to Stormy Daniels' account of the interaction, and that would have closed off her testimony about a lot of the specifics of that night. But just a couple things real quick. What I found most disturbing is just that, we've all seen Stormy Daniels over the past few years, and we know she's handled just numerous obstacles in such a depth fashion. She's handled these lawyers here. She's handled her former lawyer was a sleaze bag. She's handled the press. She's handled these talk show hosts. Obviously, she's been a stripper before, so she's handled the stage at these strip clubs. She's been an adult film star. She's handled these porn sets, which we know to be, there's a wide, varied experience in the porn industry, and she's handled all of that shit without missing a beat. And then she couldn't maneuver her way through a single, couple hours long encounter with Donald Trump without being creeped the fuck out. And I think
I think that was really powerful. Sex work is work and I don't shame it. However, the perception by a lot of people is that, oh, that's a sleazy business. In my mind, she is the least sleazy of any of the people involved in this case that are around him and have been involved with Trump. And I do think that she has handled, when you say handled herself, she has, but I think that comes from her experience navigating herself in the adult industry, because she has dealt with predators. She has dealt with liars. She has dealt with people who have tried to take advantage of her. And she is adept at standing her ground and not being marginalized by the people that want to make her feel shame because of her profession.
Right.
But
again, and that just goes back to the point that with all of that and with her being able to navigate all of that, even she was in Donald Trump's hotel room like, how the fuck did I get myself into this? This is crazy. And then, Trump is all creepy and shit. So this is the other thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly is that, typically this was portrayed like Trump was some suave, debonair, ladies' man type arrangement. And then, he wooed Stormy Daniels into bed, but really he pulled the old surprise I have a dick. If you don't know what that is, I mean, I'm sure, women out there, if you've dated some dudes. No, actually, I guess a better example, it'd be like you meet a guy and he's all, it's kind of platonic and it's very friendly, and he never really kind of hits on you or makes a pass at you or makes it seem as though it's some sort of any kind of allusions towards a sexual relationship. And then the second you get a loan, or maybe you had a boyfriend, the second you dump your boyfriend, he sends you a dick pic out of the blue with no context. And you're like, what the fuck? That's the surprise I have a dick. So Trump invited her out to dinner. She gets to the hotel room. He's in his fucking pajama robe or something, like some
satin.
Some old Hugh Hefner type shit. And she's like, bro, get the fuck out of there. Put on some clothes. And then he's like, all right, all right. And he gets dressed and they sit down and talk and have a drink or whatever. And she's like, damn, where's dinner? And he's like, ah, we'll get there. And then the next thing you know, he's on top of her. That's the surprise I have a dig, but the creepy, rapey version. Now she said, she has said specifically that it was consensual in the sense that she didn't say no.
Yeah.
But it does feel very predator like behavior where you've got the bodyguard outside the door and she tried to leave and then you cut her off, and then there's this power dynamic where she's thinking that this conversation and this interaction is about some career prospects, and then the next thing you're on top of her and you don't even have the courtesy to put on a fucking condom. But yeah, that's some creepy behavior, and that she was made so uncomfortable by that after the fact just kind of goes back to just what a terrible fucking disgusting person Trump is. Like, you grossed out a fucking porn star, you did something wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there are so many, take her profession, whatever, she's a woman. And like you said, throwing the power dynamic in there. It's one thing if you're like, it's the director of a porn set or whatever, but this is
And I thought you were going to say Miramax.
No, what, Weinstein? No, but there are so many women that can relate to that, being in that type of position, and so many women, which is why so many sexual assaults go unreported, because at the end of the day, like you said, it was technically consensual because I didn't say no, but
did she even feel like she had the freedom to say no?
Exactly. That's exactly.
Because that line was so blurred, yeah, maybe you can't say it was sexual assault or rape, but it feels rapey.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's just.
But again, I mean, it was his hubris that brought those facts into play in the trial. Like, all we needed to know was that the payment, if he admitted to the payments, I don't know, we wouldn't have to hash it out in excruciating detail if he didn't, and whatever.
Yeah, they could have stipulated that the encounter happened, and that would have been a majority of her testimony gone. And instead, it made look Trump weak and disgusting, because I know it was played up to be like, oh, the guys will love that I was out here, knocking them down, banging a porn star or whatever. But this just made it seem kind of, it seems so, not only gross, but just kind of impotent. It's like, and 2 minutes, like you couldn't do better than that. And you didn't even make sure she enjoyed it. It's all bad. It's all bad.